For an ultra-powerful god, Thor does get himself into his share of unfortunate situations. Although in his defense, nobody really emerged from that last battle with Thanos looking too good. We've seen our hero fly before, but never hurtle through space like he did in Avengers Infinity War. How did he survive in conditions which should have ended him? We have a few theories that could explain this seemingly impossible situation. But first, click subscribe and ring that gray bell to join our notification squad and get more videos from CBR.
Looks like we're not getting paid.
At the very beginning of Avengers Infinity War, we start out by seeing the Asgardian brothers Thor and Loki encountering Thanos on a very devastated starship. However, if they had succeeded, it would have been an exceptionally short movie, and before long we saw an unfortunate Thor stranded in the vacuum of space. Naturally, he wasn't left out there forever, and soon ran into the cast of the Guardians of the Galaxy. However, the fact that Thor was able to survive his time in space was a mystery, not just for the Guardians, but for the audience as well. After all, if you remember the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, Gamora once found herself adrift in space as well. Thankfully, she was able to be saved by the quick thinking of Peter Quill, who also had a brush with death due to being exposed to outer space. What is it about outer space that isn't compatible with life? Let's start out with the obvious. There isn't any breathable air in space. No air means you can't breathe, which means you've got an exceptionally short time to enjoy your space flight. Even if you could hold your breath until you were rescued, you would suffer from the loss of external pressure. This is similar to what can happen to scuba divers if they aren't careful. If you hold your breath in space or while rising under the sea, the gas in your lungs will expand, rupturing your lungs and most likely resulting in your death. So if you're ever in outer space without protection, make sure to exhale to buy yourself a couple of more seconds of life. We could go on and on about the ways in which being in space isn't compatible with life. The cosmic radiation, lack of atmospheric pressure, and various other things can be debilitating if not fatal. These are things actual astronauts have to contend with when they travel in space. There are a few things the Marvel Cinematic Universe doesn't get quite right about space. We saw Gamora and Peter Quill seem to freeze in space, but in reality, heat wouldn't leave your body fast enough for it to freeze instantly. While everybody knows that Thor's father is the god Odin, many fans forgot about his mother. She's not Odin's wife, Frigga, but the elder goddess Gaia, the mother of Earth. Having Gaia as a mother means Thor has an affinity for Earth and is protected from its diseases and infirmities. This includes getting too hot or freezing to death. And as we saw in the Thor movies, he can confidently travel using the Bifrost, which sends him between worlds in the vacuum of space. Although others use the bridge as well, we are guessing they wouldn't fare as well as Thor after prolonged use. Even if he wasn't a god, there's a good chance he would have been able to make it in space before being rescued. After all, he's from Asgard, and we know the people there are much stronger than us mere mortals from Earth. In the comic books, it's been said that the average citizen of Asgard is about as durable as Spider-Man. That's saying a lot. It means these people are capable of sustaining some pretty massive injuries and walking away afterwards. If the average citizen of Asgard is that powerful, just imagine how strong one of their gods is, to put it in perspective. With all of that in mind, it's safe to say the last hurdle our friend Thor would have to face in order to survive in outer space would be the lack of oxygen. Is holding his breath for an extended period of time one of Thor's many talents? Well, let's talk about Thor's skills for a moment. Fans of the comic book know that Thor has a plethora of talents which haven't yet made it into the MCU. In fact, when it comes to the talents of Thor, the MCU has been pretty inconsistent. They give him the title of God, but he finds himself pretty frequently defeated, or at least troubled by people who should be way less powerful than himself. We know that Thor isn't the brightest crayon in the box, and that's why his brother Loki is so easily able to manipulate him. Thor is a guy who can end up being stabbed because his brother turned into a snake and tricked him into picking him up. Seems like in every battle Thor has, he needs to relearn that he's an ultra-powerful god from another world. Since Thor has a hard time remembering this, we aren't surprised audiences were shocked to see him survive something as relatively minor as having to hold his breath a while. Not only did we see the occasionally hapless Thor in space, but he had just suffered the devastating loss of his most powerful weapon. In many of the movies, it appeared as if Thor derived much of his power from his hammer Mjolnir. It's his main weapon, and many fans believed it was as integral to his powers as the Iron Man suit is to Tony Stark. But we recently learned that while Mjolnir holds an important place in Thor's heart, it isn't the source of his power. Instead, it's a useful tool for harnessing and utilizing his latent abilities. But the true power comes from Thor himself. It's sort of inspiring in a very Marvel way. Anyway, lacking his hammer wouldn't have a serious impact on whether or not Thor could make it in outer space. While the Marvel depiction of Thor is sometimes inconsistent concerning his powers, we have to believe that holding his breath would be no big deal to the God of Thunder. His super stamina, strength, and ability to withstand harsh conditions easily explains why his body was able to withstand the ravages of space. After that, all that's left is suspending our disbelief enough to believe that Thor was discovered quickly enough before his breath ran out. Considering that we've seen the much less powerful Gamora and Quill survive in space for a few minutes, we're guessing Thor had no problem in this area. Did you spend the rest of the film wondering about Thor could have possibly survived in outer space? Or was there something else from Avengers Infinity War that bothered you? Let us know your biggest question from the movie in the comments section. Maybe it'll get answered in a future video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring the gray bell to stay up to date with CBR. Bye for now.